Network Authority to order. We are going to start with a roll call. Mr. DeBerry, would you help us out with that, please?
I will. Ms. Ritter.
Here.
Ms. McClellan.
Here.
Ms. Terry. Mr. Moore. Here. Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Ms. Weissel.
Here.
Dr. Hayes. Dr. Carrico. Here. Peter Wallace. Here. We have a quorum.
Awesome, thank you so much. We need to approve the agenda, or are there any modifications that need to be submitted? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next item is our public comment section. I don't know that we have any folks here who are here to make public comment.
The only person I will introduce, Dr. Wayne Davis, is the CIO for the city of Hampton. I worked with Wayne a long time and working GTS, talking to the peninsula about phases 3 of the welcome Wayne.
Thank you. I hope the traffic wasn't too bad.
Not too bad.
Just going home. Yeah, well, sorry about that.
Living around, other than GTS and there's
We have, with Sean Dole and the County.
Hi, Sean.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Best place to be on a Friday afternoon, unless you have to go back to Hampton. Just because of traffic. Okay, and are there any submitted public comments?
They are not. GTS is here for the closed session, but I don't know if you, GTS had any general comments. If not, we'll move on.
Okay.
This is a very good to say, it's good at Richmond, so.
Okay, thank you for checking that out.
Oh, yeah, right. Ken and Matt, as usual, on. Y'all met Ken for the first time last week. He's Vice President of all construction, and we all know our good friend Matt. So, welcome.
Great. Good to see y'all. Thank you for being with us. Okay, we have the meeting minutes from January 12th. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. Thank you, as always, for great minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Okay, now let's get into the good stuff. The project management update. Mr. DeBerry.
Okay, we're gonna pull up the project update. It's gonna be really quick this week, and we'll try to leave a lot of time for a closed session. But once we get the map up, let's see. This. Okay, so since we met last, we now have an additional 22.5 miles of green, which you'll see represented in Virginia Beach. Actually permits A through L, P and Q, and 1 through 6. We've completed all of the walkthroughs for that. Ken's staff and Danella met with Virginia Beach construction oversight. They've walked it. There are a few issues they're working through, but should be able to begin actual construction. So, like I said, the important thing to get those locates in and look at potential areas. And I think there's a great working relationship between Danella and Virginia Beach, same as the other cities. I think they've been very responsive. So thanks for that, Ken. So actually, this brings us up now. We have about 47 miles of conduit installed, and with this 36, we're really about 83% of the ring under some level of construction. We got about 6 months left on our timeline. We'll begin to pick up the pace as we move forward with additional crews from Danella. And I have been working with Ken over the past week or so about when do we start to make the transition of pushing fiber through the conduit. You want to hold your mouth right on that, because right now we would only be cutting conduit if we had an issue. We have to register 811 for locates, but we'll work through that with Ken, and in the next month or so, come back and tell you that we started to push fiber through the ring. We continue, let's see, in terms of Virginia Beach, the remaining locates, there are only about six permits, 7 permits remaining. We're working those now. Jay's here, Chesapeake team's here, I think we're about 18 out, 19 miles completed on co-build.
That's correct.
Once that's done, and we sign that agreement with the city of Chesapeake, then we just push SNA fiber through the conduit that we were procuring from the city of Chesapeake. So things are moving along. Al, things are going great in Suffolk. We've got a couple of larger zones, Zone 5, or at least about 55% through. Zone 4, about 55% through that. Just started that long run on Zone 3, and working with your staff on Zone 1. That's where we're co-building. A lot of construction going on. So we've engaged with Curtis to contract.
Construction in Suffolk? Sorry. Stephen, can I ask a question? I'm
Yes.
sorry, you.
Yeah.
So, explain Zone 2 in red, the Portsmouth. What's going on
Okay,
there?
good call. I should have mentioned that. So that is the Portsmouth in kind, where we're leveraging Portsmouth conduit over the West Norfolk Bridge. And it's tied to the final design crossing the Midtown Tunnel. And so we'll submit that permit. We've submitted the design to VDOT for entrance through the tunnel. It's a fairly simple design and actually probably come in a little under cost. So as soon as they approve that, we will get that Zone 2 over to Portsmouth permitting. We'll be working with Mike and I with VDOT on some type of in-kind agreement for access to the tunnel. They know, basically, we have a great asset in fiber, so we'll work with them on that.
I just see red, and that was concerning to me, so just want to make sure we're in good shape. Are there,
Yeah, that's the zone. It's 2 miles, and it's basically that bridge and then connecting into the Midtown Tunnel.
The grade between zone 7 and 8.
Yes, that's part of the Chesapeake co-build. And it's a couple, 3 miles, it's a couple, 3 miles, maybe 4.
The northern part?
Yeah,
It's a little less than 3.
yeah. And so it's interesting, there's some common city facilities out that way. And yeah, so it's about 19 miles total.
you said about 18 and 19 are under construction or something?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And
I would say too, the last thing, kudos to CTC and the team. We really had great response from VDOT, the railroads. Just signed an agreement with Colonial Pipeline, and we're going over a couple of their facilities. And we want to get those kind of things done right, and we have. So
anything of a surprise since our last meeting 2 weeks ago? Our last one?
No, I just think at this stage we're pushing because we want to finish this thing on time, and that's the goal.
Great. Any questions from commissioners? No? Matt, any flavor you want to add?
Did you
No, I don't
say
think
we're
that's
80?
okay. I think so. It's a good summary, and yeah, we really seem to be getting through all of the anticipated hurdles without any surprises through the timeline. We knew railroads would take a while. We knew there were going to be quite a few challenges, but we really anticipated all of those, and they seem to be coming through more or less the way expected. So all good news, I believe, at this point.
Great. Ms. Wilson, you have a
I'm
question?
so sorry, I was a little loud in my, did you say we're 83% done?
Well, no, there's 83% of the fiber that we're actually building. There's 100 miles of fiber that the authority's building, 19 miles of Chesapeake is building. With this new 23 miles that we're starting in Virginia Beach, that brings us up to about 83% either completed or under construction. 47 miles are actually complete. And then there's an additional 36 miles that's underway. That includes mostly in Suffolk and now it'll be Virginia Beach.
And do we have an estimated time when that can be finished?
My goal is 31 July. We haven't moved yet.
That's fantastic.
We got 6 months to push.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Will it be lit up all at once?
Um,
I want to flip the switch.
The fiber is totally in, or is it lit up in sections as the fiber is?
Well, that's to be determined, and part of that will be answered in the closed session. We've always said that if we could light early for businesses, we would do that because that's income for our P3 partner, and we want them to be successful. You just have to balance that with the part that, it's under warranty, and you've got to, you'd like to do it all at once, but we'll see. You'll have more. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Did you have a question?
No, I didn't.
Okay, sorry.
Just raises one question. When does the clock start on the GTS agreement?
Once we hand it over to them.
Yes.
Is that correct?
In its entirety, or if you light up a portion, does
Well,
that start the clock?
The plan would be to turn over it in its entirety, but to your point, if we light up an area because there's a business case for that, then we'd come back to the board, and Mike will have to help me on that. We haven't adjusted the agreement yet.
Yeah, the agreement provides for us to be able to adjust if there's a reason, like as Steven says, to light it up early, but the way it's currently structured, there's an expectation that it will light up as of 31 July, and it will be GTS's beginning on that day. GTS's clock to do its thing will begin on that day.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. It's exciting stuff. We should plan on doing something fun. We'll get it all done.
Hope so.
Define fun.
And I did, I guess one last thing, hopefully in about the June timeframe, I'll start engaging with the board on a draft position description for the ED position and starting the recruitment process. But the goal is to have a seamless transition. I think with what CTC has done to date to help us with Denello and construction and GTS, we'll have a seamless transition.
Great.
Madam Chair, Matt Klepeyes is our PDC Director of Fund, so I'm sure you can help us get some things organized for the job.
Sounds great. That's going to be the
You have a big job ahead of you.
So I did have one, Ms. Litter asked a question by email. And I engaged with Bob on this. We're going to get with Drew Lunkin, who's Senator Warner's staff, and brief him. We briefed Senator Kane's chief aide a couple of months ago. So we try to keep them in the loop in addition to briefing the value people want support, or because we just want to be in a position.
Well, Drew offered up if we would like to have a virtual meeting with the broadband person in the senator's office, that might be value in discussing the legislation.
Sure.
And what's to come and any issues we might have with the BEAD funding and how it's going to be dispersed, and do we have any requests of the senator as he moves on? Because, I mean, it's nice to brief Senator Kane's office, but I think it's Senator Warner's office that has driven this train. And I thought that was nice of you.
Yeah, he's been
And
great.
he's willing to come to any meeting.
He's attended all of our groundbreakings, and so Bob and I will work through that. I mean, maybe we give him an update on the project, but to your point, we would like an advocate for BEAD. I think GTS would also.
Right, and just in my experience over the years, Drew is a great advocate. He's a good friend of mine, but to have the person in the office in charge of working that issue is very important, I think.
Doesn't get lost in translation.
Right, there's no middleman, but we also have an advocacy opportunity that we might not have otherwise in national legislation. So thank you very much.
There's time. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna now move into closed session with the assistance of Mr. Lockaby. Could you please suggest the language for the closed session motion?
Madam Chair, I believe that you are looking for a motion to convene a closed session pursuant to subsections I got confused for a moment. A closed session pursuant to subsections A28 and A29 of section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for the purpose of discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract where discussion in open session would adversely affect the negotiation position of the authority, and the discussion of information subject to the exclusion in subdivision 11 of section 2.2-3705.6 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended by the authority as a responsible public entity relating to certain information produced pursuant to the comprehensive agreement with Global Technical Systems. And Madam Chair, I believe that in order to fully address these issues, the board probably would benefit from having Mr. DeBerry, Mr. Crum, myself, the attorneys and CIOs from each of the localities, and as well as Ms. Elmore, because she will be necessary in order to actually run presentations, as well as the representatives that GTS has sent to discuss the information subject to subdivision 11 of section 2.2-3705.6 with us.
And I would only add, and I talked to Matt, Danella, it's been requested by GTS to sit in a closed session. We would approve that because they're the construction agent. Matt and I'll talk to you about Matt and our conversation. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. So we'll have Ken stay on and the others of them.
Okay, I'll bring it from here.
Yeah, shake his hand. Thanks. Next time it'll be a little longer. You might
It's a long way to come in traffic.
Thanks.
I know.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr.
Okay, so we have a information for a motion, which I would ask one of my members to move.
So
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in closed session.
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe that you're seeking a motion to come out of closed session and to certify by a roll call vote that to the best of each member of the board's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Freedom of Information Act, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the Board of Directors.
Thank you so much. Ask for a motion to that extent.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we do a roll call vote?
Ms. Ritter?
Yes.
Ms. McClellan?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Ms. Weitzel? Dr. Kirkwood? Yes. Mr. Wallace? Yes.
Okay, we are back in open session. We're gonna, the next agenda item is old slash new business. And under old business, one of the things we discussed in the last meeting, I have apologized as I never wrote the letter about the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP. But if you've been watching it, Senator Warner had something about this. He's definitely hitting full stride. I don't know that they've made a determination yet about what they're going to do in that regard. The budget hasn't passed to extend that out either.
That's correct. And I think that can be, as Ms. Ritter suggested in the conversations with some representatives from DC, might be really helpful for us to get some background information.
That'd be great. Any other old business? Okay. Any new business? Yeah, I asked Stephen, it came to my attention that Portsmouth has been talking at their city council level, and I think they passed an ordinance to, Stephen, could you explain?
And Kelsey's here, she can help me, but we've been working with Portsmouth, actually, I guess this has been ongoing for a couple of years, but Portsmouth set up their own broadband authority, similar to the Southside Network Authority. I think the initial purpose was for low-income home housing and public housing and the like. And so they've developed in public grades and are in a position where they would be willing to lease last mile service. And
It's not
so,
last mile.
pardon?
It's not last mile. It's specifically, as I saw it, was to
Service to internet
businesses and
ISPs.
institutions. Yeah, so all that was passed, it does open the ability for companies to come in and do dark fiber leases, but the rates were set and the agreement is structured, so it's really just for short-term, short distances.
It's a temporary legislation.
Exactly. So-
And we have examples in other cities where without a franchise, they have leased city fiber to internet service providers. But I think that the reason this is important for us just to talk, and maybe the next meeting we could have each city give a quick brief on where they are. To Ms. Ritter's point about synergy, there's a lot of things going on in the individual cities, and I think it would help Southside Network Authority Board better understand the city needs and how we might help if that's possible, but just for situational awareness, because I think, again, many of the cities have large institutional fiber rings that very well could provide cheaper last mile service and then connect to, for instance, connect to SMA for internet services.
My understanding is unless you go the Portsmouth route and you spin it off into an authority, the cities cannot sell last mile service in competition with the other private providers.
Right. I believe, Mike, you can lease fiber, right?
You can lease dark fiber only.
And the cities have a lot
Basically
of dark
transport, as Mr. Pasquarelli was mentioning.
And I'm not sure if new authorities can either, and the wireless authorities have.
Yeah.
You still can, okay.
So authorities still can.
So I think, and to the chair's point, the other thing that I talked to Mike about, that I think is important is, we've looked at can, in effect, Southside Network Authority be a contractor, if you will, under the SNA authority. And I think what I heard was that unless you're dealing with certain type of federal monies, if you're dealing with city operating funds, there are opportunities for cities to go to the Southside Network Authority for services, internet and otherwise. Is that kind of a good translation?
It's a little more complicated than that, but yes, there are ways that it can, if cities have needs, there are ways that SNA can probably get it to you faster than anybody else can, depending on the situation.
That's exactly what I tried to say.
If there's bond money being used, you can only use a percentage of certain things. You can't
ball, right? So
Yeah.
we gotta be
It's
careful.
how you sold your bonds. If they're if you sold them taxable, then you're good. If you sold them non-tax, then you
Right.
have some additional legal loopholes, I believe you have to jump through.
But we don't have bonds and we don't have federal strings either.
Correct, so they would be a lot faster than the city.
And we have a contractor already under contract.
And this just goes back to our conversations about how can we be a tool in the toolbox for the cities.
And this actually came up because I was at I was in the Fine City of Chesapeake, at Hampton Roads Realtors Association meeting, and I'm speaking about local government, and somebody came up, a Portsmouth Realtor, and said, so I understand you're leasing fiber at $950 a strand, and I had no idea what this gentleman was talking about. And then he sent me the actual ordinance, and I had never seen the ordinance, and he was thinking it was the SNA that was doing that, and I thought, well, maybe it was GTS that was doing that. And no, it was Portsmouth that was doing that. I had no knowledge of it, so I would just like to ask under our, on our agendas when we have old new business, if there's something like that happening in your respective cities that we, I'd love for us to have this information sharing so that we can support one another, perhaps get ideas that others are doing that we can maybe help one another in that regard. So that was the genesis of this discussion. Is there anything else cool going on in your cities that we should know about? Or think about it for next time? Any other new business?
Madam Chair, just very quickly, so yesterday morning, the Hampton Roads Caucus met. I had the opportunity to brief on a number of various regional items, but you probably know that Delegate Cliff Hayes, our board member, is the chair of the Hampton Roads Caucus. And Delegate Hayes gave a really nice overview to his fellow caucus members on the work of this authority and the fiber.
Great.
And I just thought it was well done, and it was a great chance for him to spread the word to other General Assembly members in the region about the work of this group. So I just wanted to mention that very quickly.
That's great news. And yes, Laura?
Oh, I just had a question. So Stephen just mentioned briefs from the cities in March on where each city is at with commercializing our municipal middle mile broadband, or what specifically?
I thought that, okay, so we'll be meeting with the CIOs next week. We can go about it two ways. We can take that information and bring it back, and GTS help me make a brief, or to the chair's point, it could be helpful just for things that you can talk about publicly to understand what your strategy is. What do you plan on doing the best?
As it relates to the SNA.
Yes.
I know I was asked these picky questions. Who's we? Is it the authority and GTS? Or is it just members of the
So for
authority?
me, now that we have a P3 partner, when I say SNA, I mean GTS and SNA. I mean, they are our tool in the toolbox. They are, as you heard, they're our internet service provider, which gives us some really good opportunities. So-
Okay, I just wanted to know
Yeah.
who.
Good point. Yeah, we
Right.
is bad pronouns. So SNA.
Oh, no pronoun discussion then. But no, I always ask that, it's like when you're, no reference addition. When anybody says to me they did it, my first question is, who's they?
Right. Well, it's a great point, because when in SNA's brief, the whole point, the first thing is how do they align with the strategies of Southside Network Authority? And that way we speak with one voice.
Or
Well,
are
that's
you clear
certainly the
on the answer there, or do you need more?
Well, it sounds like, so our CIO, Dan Constantino, will be in a meeting next week, you said, Stephen?
Yes.
So it sounds like some of this information will be discussed in that meeting. And then, we're still under construction, and we just hired Harvey Miller, who's been here several weeks.
Then let's hope he stays.
So we haven't really,
Right.
fleshed
So
out a
let's- why don't we-
strategy yet.
Why don't we get the results of the meeting and we'll
Okay.
outbrief the authority. I think it's none too soon though for SNA and GTS to understand where fiber is and how close it is to areas of economic development so that they can start making good business decisions.
And there was a lot of fact-finding done in the, I recall with Mr. Lockaby, with the creation of the agreement with GTS, there were meetings with the cities, with economic development teams and other city staff, so that could probably be an input into this.
Yeah, you were talking about comp plans, and there was talking about meeting with economic development people. I read good chunks of all of y'all's comp plans and talked with your, this was all about a year ago that I did this, because I wanted to make sure that the metrics that we drew up in the agreement, wherever they went, were not, I was hoping and praying, given that I have 5 bosses essentially who may have divergent needs and desires, which direction to go to make sure that it wasn't going to be to the prejudice of anybody in terms of being able to call someone in for recognizing that there's always going to be a draw to an anchor institution, and I hope I'm not saying anything that's not obvious to everybody in the world. Heading to a high revenue anchor institution is always going to be desirable for anybody to do, and then building laterals off to catch everybody that you just went by. Figuring out what that was going to be and how to draw metrics that made that work. So this, I think conversation's been prime. A conversation about that's been prime somewhat if you guys are interested in having that. But that's up to, of course, the talkers to decide whether to talk.
Well, I think as was said earlier by Stephen, we're all invested in this ring, so we want to see the success of the marketing of this asset. So to the extent that we can make available our economic development departments and what they're doing, and that they can work with you all on finding opportunities, I think that would be something that we need to be prioritizing for sure. And then also with the PDC, the Alliance, et cetera, maybe even an update of PDC at some point when we get a little closer to Fund Day. Okay. Ms. Wilson.
Well, it seems like there should be a lot of low-hanging fruit tonight initially.
Yes.
So that should be the easy part first.
But obviously that's what we're going to go for first. But it's not to stop there. So
Oh, no, that's.
we don't want to be like most other providers, get low-hanging fruit and ask me to stop. So
No, that's not the
yeah.
GTS way.
No, it's not.
Spark.
It's wrong.
Who's Sparky?
Well, that's going to be, that will be announced on Fund Day. That's the big surprise.
Okay. All righty. Okay. If hearing no other information, news, or old or new business, we will adjourn, and the next meeting will be March 8th at 2:00 p.m.